Thank you, Michael. I think there's a real truism in there. BIM is happening now, but it isn't complete. It continues to develop. It solves a number of problems now, but it doesn't solve all problems. So we have to keep going. We have to keep adapting. Our world is changing quickly. For our next speaker, it's changing very, very quickly. So quickly that the job title that we've got at the moment is different, and he now has 2 jobs. I'm going to invite David Philp to come up, and he can tell us all about it. David.
Thank you, Richard. Today I'm going to be telling you a story from the main contractor side, but as Richard kind of alluded to, I've actually now got 2 jobs. Job number 2 is head of BIM implementation for the Cabinet Office, but unfortunately I do only get paid 1 salary. But, for the next 15 minutes, or 20 minutes, depending on how much Richard gives me, we're going to talk about our story, how we've transformed Balfour Beatty through the use of BIM, what it means to us, and where we see the value propositions being. The first question we ask is, kind of like, why BIM? And I think every good story always starts with a once upon a time. I don't think ours is any different. A couple of years back, we lived, to be honest, pretty much in a 2D world. Quite a good world for us. We had well-rehearsed supply chains we worked with constantly. Our customers were well-rehearsed, and they procured in real much best value solutions. And then kind of what happened for us? Well, pretty much overnight the world changed. You were very much back to clients that are making commodity-based selection. So, we suddenly had some new drivers. We had to start thinking very much quite differently. And I think you've kind of heard it all before. There's no money left. And, Paul Morrell, he set us some real challenges, not just in terms of money, but in terms of carbon, especially in-service carbon, not just embodied. So I think, we've already said it, cost very much king and carbon's queen. But when we talk about cost in BIM, that was the first question for us as a contractor. How do you turn a 3D model into something that can start to save you 20%? So the first thing we started to do was actually put a commercial overlay. What is it? Is it risk we're talking about? And Paul says we've got 2 horses to ride. Well, I actually think we've got more. For us, we think we're now like the one-man band. We've got cost, but we've also got the fact that we've got to keep winning more work. We've got to try to keep growing our business as well. But the big thing, and for us, we use something we call zero harm. And you think, why are we doing BIM? Well, for me, the biggest thing, and the moral imperative, is safe by design. I think for me that's really, if you like. So the gauntlet's really been thrown. We've got the macro drivers there. And of course, the big thing is, well, we've been told to do it. We've got 5 years now to make level 2 BIM real. Well, really only 4. The clock is very much ticking. And that'll keep growing as well. But you've kind of heard, we've heard this all before. We've heard Egan, Latham talking about this. We've had all these wake-up calls. So, why is no one bothered to, switch the alarm clock off, start changing what we've been doing? This is going to be difficult, but I was speaking to the guy on the right, I'm sure most of you know, Andrew Wilsonholm, the CEO of Crossrail. Andrew wrote a report called Never Waste a Good Crisis, and Andrew's assertion was very much, we've kind of had 7 years, a bit like Joseph's coat, where we've been protected by this economic comfort blanket. As a contractor, I could get out of my bed in the morning, we could make a reasonable profit without having to innovate. Life was relatively easy. We've now got this crisis. This gives a real opportunity. We've really got to start thinking differently. So for us, when we think about BIM, we start to think very much about innovation. As Andrew says, let's not waste a good crisis. But if you don't do it, what's the cost of us not doing it? Balfour Beatty is not the only one that's doing BIM. Competitors are moving on as well. As Paul says, there's that context of being beta maxed out. Not by doing a model, but changing how we work. So, what does that mean? Well, we've kind of got the perfect storm for BIM. There's no better time for any organisation to be sort of kicking things off. The first thing we have to do is, well, define BIM. Do we turn to Wikipedia page 12,236, take that definition, or we get something that resonates across our business? And we came up with a rather unique coinage, if you like. This was very much BIM for us. We had BIM, we don't really like the word if I'm truly honest, we see it more as asset information modelling. But we see it as these data-rich technologies, and the data is very important, but for us, this was the real part, integrated design, construct, and I think people really forget about the end part, operate. And this is what it's about for us, is very much starting with the end in mind, giving our clients something they want. So it's 2 sides of the same coin, and we've kind of been doing BIM for many years at its very simplest level. You bring people around about the campfire, you share information with them. Great things generally happen because it's about that value-creating collaboration. Well, how's it changed through BIM? This is one of our jobs. There's the campfire. Suddenly, the campfire is the model. Everybody's around discussing it. You think that's kind of what we're doing already. BIM's got us all here today to talk about not just 3D, but how we change And you start to use that about productivity, so that's us starting to look at that 20%, starting to change. The guy on the right, I'm sure most of you recognise John Toshe, an American-based contractor. You know, John's been doing some fantastic works. And he uses the analogy, you know, it's a bit like an orchestra. And John, a couple of weeks ago, asked me the question, where is the UK in terms of BIM? I said, well, most of the noise is still the only BIM. You know, I'm an architect that's got a copy of, you know, some offering package, and they think they're doing BIM, but with little recognition. I'm glad to say, though, I think in terms of UK, in terms of Balfour Beatty, we've done a lot of work where our supply chain, and we're starting to see more collaboration, starting to get our architects, our engineers together, starting to get at least a federated model at the end of the day. But where we want to, and I know we're at this moment, industry is moving towards level 2, but we really need to get to level 3. And people say to me, you know, where is BIM in that model? Well, I think BIM is actually the musical score. Everybody's got that common language. And well, where does Balfour Beatty be? Well, we want to be a world-class integrator, the person that's bringing the client, the supply chain all around, you know, and using BIM as that tool to help inform the agenda. And we see BIM as being part of a much, much wider component for us. You know, it's very much about delivering efficiency and asset performance. If you tell a lot of our clients, if you're a Balfour Beatty, you can do 3D clash detection, it's like, really? Do I care? But if I tell you I can give you a better performing asset, you start to listen. So for us, it's very much the technologies, creating that right environment, using lean, but always with the goal of trying to perform optimal asset performance. And that means for us, instead of working left to right and hoping something pops out, we now start looking more and more as what do you want as a client, how does your business operate, pull it down and then push it through. So completely different ways of working for us. And the big thing I think for any company is, you know, if you see BIM as just putting technology in, there's kind of no point in doing it. We see it very much as a technology point of view. It's sometimes easier to say what we don't think it is. You know, we don't think it's a technology. We don't think it's just Revit, obviously a very important part of it. It's not just 3D and it's not just technology. And this is very much now. So for a Balfour Beatty, this is a complete transformational change programme. Government's the same. You know, this is about changing the industry. And it is really a wholesale reinvention of how we build. What you've got to do, well, we've got to defy some of the conventions. Some of these traditional weaves that we've had over the last 20, 30 years, we've got to break. The processes we've already seen, they don't inherently fit what we're trying to do. Okay, we do this. Where is the value proposition? Well, for us, we hope as a contractor it creates this Balfour Beatty secret sauce. Well, kind of what's in that? We've got some technology, we've got some new process. The big part of it is we've got new behaviours though, and that's a big thing. We've got new leadership, cultures and values. And that changes things, but at the top, why would you come to a Balfour Beatty 5, 10 years? It's probably because we've got the best data set for running a building. So, you know, we've started building, you know, as you said, it is young, and we're starting to fill that jar up. £2.50 if you want to buy one at the end of the show. But what we find is, you know, the more you go around the clock face in terms of the more the value proposition. It starts off small. You know, through BIM we think we can define and sort of have a more stable brief. We start to look more and more towards manufacturing assembly. How do you get more prefabrication? We start better coordinated design. But for us, the real big savings are when we move into the operational side of it, the OPEX. So BIM, we don't think purely in CapEx, but OPEX as well. But already we're starting to think more, and we talk about little BIM, big BIM. But for us, we start to think more about facilities information modelling. What are you going to give the client at the end of that 2-3 years, and what are they going to be doing with that data? So we're starting to think more and more about facilities information modelling. How can we help our client? But at the end of the day, this is all what it's about for us, stripping waste out the process. You know, by building better before you build it once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times virtually, and once correctly in site, you can start to take the waste out of the process. So when Paul Morrell starts to talk about taking 20% out, if you can start to take the waste out of the process, we're well on our way to achieving that goal. Does this work everywhere? We came up with the concept of the Goldilocks zone, and I think it was a question that Richard asked, does this fit every procurement route? Well, we kind of think a bit like the earth, you know, it needs, if you like, not too hot, not too cold, it needs some liquid. We think BIM needs right habitat as well. And what we find is the more collaborative the procurement route, the more the outcomes come. So if you start with, if you like, you know, you're designing dump, there's not been any real involvement, there's not been any collaboration, integration. Therefore, the value of the output, you know, is not very high. You move over towards NEC, you move over to, if you like, an American IPD, the output, the outcomes you get from BIM start to move up. We think the big thing is about de-risking. You know, we ask a lot of our clients, you know, imagine you're giving a teacher and something in this 2D, how can they understand? I think that's an Arab drawing, was it? they start to get some real understanding, you know, and this is a job we had done, a bit of Hollywood BIM, you know, put the visualization on. A big job, you know, our clients, the public can start to understand that stakeholder group. We drop it into, you know, a simulator. I know I mentioned Revit badly, but this sit in the Autodesk suite, and fantastic what we can do with the technologies. And we call it the snowflake principle. Every design is different, you know, it's a bit like snowflake, but BIM lets us help tell that story. And, you know, we are starting to look at in terms of now, how can we actually use BIM to actually really manage risk? This is a job we've got in America where we've put it into Navis to actually look at the risk profile on it. We can start to look at what-if simulations. So you imagine in terms of that value proposition, that 20% again, you know, how can you start to de-risk your, you know, if you've got a project bank account, one of the big things is, you know, let's not touch it, let's look, let's explore different outcomes. So I think one of the things we need for BIM, you know, we have to kind of set a vision. And we said, well, you know, government's set as a challenge, and I think we as contractors have got a real responsibility as leaders. You know, it is a push-pull strategy. We've got to be the one that's very much pulling that chain, if you like. A bit like wacky races, everybody's saying that, you know, we've got to get to the top as well. The big BIM race is on. Be the first one. What we're saying is we want to be more mature. We've got our demonstration projects going through at the moment. Then we've got to measure them. Are we actually getting any benefit from, you know, from BIM? So we're starting to put our metrics around about it. And we want to be an industry leader, I'm sure, like most. But the first thing we're doing is, well, let's get really good at what government wants. Let's make sure we're compliant. So for us, level 2 is the first thing, all our bids, let's get really good at that. But we come to this time of the year as well, it's quite key for us. You know, autumn, you start to get the combine harvester, as I call it, the BIM harvester out. That, how do you take all that model, all that data that's in there and start to take it out and put it into, you know, the client's asset model? For us, that's kind of key as a contractor now. What does a plan look like? Well, you know, we've started to, we call it, you know, the big BIM theory. You know, you've had that moment of singularity for us out in the US, where it starts to move from a nebulous, starting to get some outcomes from it. And we're there at the point where it's about the facilities information modelling. In the UK, you know, we are still trying to get our outcomes from it. So it does expand. You know, it's got to start by definition, outcomes, process. We try not to invent the wheel every time. You know, we learn from others. We try and put common process through. We start to build our communities of practice up, you know. And that's for us is very much a big part of BIM. It's open learning. It is about true collaboration, working with the supply chain, working with our partners to get understand. Key thing for us as well is being able to articulate what we want, our execution plan and level of detail. For us, we probably won't do a lot of model creation, but we want to be good in terms of asking our partners, this is what we want in terms of outcome, and this is the level of detail. And well, what data do we have that can give you as well? And for us, it comes down to probably about 3 key imperatives. The technologies, yeah, we do need them, and that's a very big part for us. You know, we need that strong foundation in place that can give us the data-driven solutions. We need new aligned process, so we're having to start to think about that. Probably that's, we reckon, 20–30% of the challenge for us. Big part process, but very much at the top is about training, it's about people, it's about organisations and working with them, getting people upskilled. You bring that together, well, what does that backbone give you? For us, that's that IDC, that integrated design, construct, and operate. But at the end of the day, this is all very well and good. You know, ultimately, the proof of the proof is going to be very much in the eating. And I think if I've learned one thing, I think I was quite guilty as well. You set that big vision, you know, Paul Morell's done that, but now we've got to start. I think sometimes making the first small steps into actually doing something is just as important as having, if you like, the big vision. Well, if we don't, where does the UK construction industry go? We know this is the right thing to do. So it is a case, you know, it really is time for us to evolve or die. Usually I finish off, you know, is it a bleak message? Is this game over? But I think really for me, we've got a real chance here. This is our chance to really reset the default, you know, to make our industry where it should be again. Thank you.